Hello and welcome to another creative tutorial. Today we're going to be offering a step-by-step guide on how to create this modern looking badge. If you're new to our channel, please be sure to click on the subscribe button, and if you enjoyed this video, please like and share it. Let's get started. Okay guys, so the first thing we're going to do is open a new document, 1920 by 1080 pixels. Next, I'm going to create a new layer by clicking the new layer icon at the bottom of the layers panel. I'm going to select my elliptical marquee tool, and I'm going to click in the center and drag out while holding the Shift and Alt key. I think that looks good right about there. I have my foreground color set to black here, so I'm going to press Alt and backspace to fill in my selection. While I still have my selection open, I'm going to go into the select menu, modify, and choose contract. I'm going to contract this selection by 30 pixels. I'll choose OK. And now I'm going to press backspace to delete this inner portion of the circle so that we're left with the ring. So I'll press backspace on my keyboard to delete, Control D to get rid of my selection. And next I'm going to add a gradient overlay to this ring color here. So I'll go into my effects menu and choose gradient overlay. I'm going to select the colors. First, let me boost up my opacity. Now I'll go into my color picker. I'm going to choose the left stop here, and we're going to enter some values here. The first value that we'll enter for our left stop is E44667. I'll select OK. And for my right stop, I'm going to enter in FF965C. I'll choose OK. Now I have my opacity lowered on the right side here, so I'll go to the top stop right here and raise my opacity. I'll choose OK. And now let's see what we got here. So I want my darker color on the bottom here, so I'm going to select reverse, and I'm going to scale this down a bit. Also going to choose linear. And my angle is going to be set to -90. I'm going to lower my linear. Let's see if we move it down. Yeah, you can just click on the document and drag down. So I want it about halfway. So the darker color fading into the lighter color, I want it about halfway in. So I'll select OK. Now I'm going to create a new layer, and from the center I'm going to click and drag out with my elliptical marquee tool selected, and I think that looks good right about there. On my new layer, I'm going to choose my color picker here, and we're going to enter in a new value here as well. So the color value I have for this selection is 32272 and the letter D. So it should give us like a dark blue shade. I'll select OK, and I'm going to press Alt and backspace to fill in my selection. And I'm going to move this layer below the gradient overlay layer. I'll press Control D. Next, I want to center our layers, so I'm going to press Control A on our keyboard to make a complete selection of the entire document. I'm going to click on one layer while holding the Shift key. I'll click on the top one. Then I'm going to select Align Horizontal Centers up here at the top, and I'm going to align my vertical centers as well. I'm going to press Control D. Next, I'll select my ellipse tool, and I'm going to click from the center and drag it out while holding the Shift and Alt key. I'm going to drag it to just about there. So for this ellipse tool, for this ellipse shape rather, we're going to set it to no fill, And we're going to choose our type tool. And now that we have a path that we created from the ellipse shape tool, when you hover your type tool over the path, you get that the icon change. Your cursor, you see the cursor change there. So this just means that you're able to type on the path. So I'll click once, and now I'm going to begin typing onto the path. I'm using Seago UI, so I'll select Seago UI, and my size is going to be set to 24, and I'm going to set it to black. So my thickness is going to be set to black, and we're going to increase our tracking as well. I'm going to increase that to 200. So I'll set that to 200 here. Well, we're going to type out first. When we type out, we'll get the option to increase our tracking. So I have 24, black, my tracking, which we'll set up in a second. I'm going to change my color to white. I'll just sample from the document there. And I'm going to begin typing. So I'll type chunky. I'm going to put them all caps as well. And I'm going to space 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. Milk. 1, 2, 3, 4. Studio. So Chunky Milk Studio. And now that I have this available, I'm going to press Control T, and I'm going to just rotate this into place here. I may want to increase the size. I'm going to apply that right there, but I think I may want to increase the size. So what I'm going to do here is select my type tool. And matter of fact, I think we have the option now to increase. So I'm going to just click the drop down menu. Let's go into 30. 30 looks pretty good. Let's see 36. Maybe we'll go with 36. So I have this set at 36 for this size circle that we have here. So again, I'm going to press Control T and just rotate this into place. Okay, that looks good. Now I'm going to duplicate this text layer that we just created by pressing Control J. Bring up my type tool. I'm going to press Control and click on this little circular icon that's right here. And then I'm going to use my direct selection tool to bring it to the inside. You see the arrow change? That's just saying whether you want your text on the inside or outside of the path. So I want it on the outside, so I'm going to click. And now you're setting your endpoint. So I'm going to set my endpoint here. I clicked and held, and this allows me to move my endpoint. So now we know that the endpoint for our text is way over here, and our start point will be over here. So now I could click and drag from my start point and move that into place there. I'm going to change my text here. So I'm using my type tool, clicking, and we're going to begin typing creative tutorials on YouTube. So you see how the text disappeared here? That's because the amount of text that you entered excuse me, does not fit within your start and end point. So all you need to do is click on your start point and drag it over. So I'll use my we'll just use our move tool to select that. Now I'll bring up my type tool. My direct selection tool will allow me to move this a little over because I want to have enough space to add my text in there. So being that the text is on the inside is not exactly aligned with your top portion here. So what we're going to have to do is increase the size a bit. So I'll press Control T and just scale out a bit while holding Shift and Alt, and just scale it out just a bit there. There we go. I think that looks better. Maybe we'll do a little more. Control T, enter. It looks like we lost some here, so I'm gonna bring this down a bit. We moved the wrong one. Alright, there we go. So just keep in mind that you have a start point with the X-like icon right here, and your circle will be the endpoint here. And the space between is where you're allowed to fit your text. I'll just move this up a little more. I think that looks good actually. Okay, the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna select our ellipse tool again, and we're just gonna click and drag out while holding the Shift and Alt key. You know what, before we do that, I'm gonna delete this one, and we're gonna click and drag out from the center here so we could align it with the text here, because we're gonna be creating the dots that'll connect from where it says chunky to creative, and from where it says YouTube to studio. So what I'm gonna do initially is get rid of that path, and then I'll select my ellipse tool, and from the center I'll click and drag out while holding the Shift key, and I'm gonna align one side. We're gonna do one side for now. Let's see if that's good. We'll add a stroke. We'll take off the fill, so I'll click here and select none, and we're gonna add a light stroke just so we can see what we're working with. I'll X out the properties box over here, and with my move tool I'm just gonna move this into place here. So I want it to connect. I'm looking at the right side right now, so I want it to connect from studio to YouTube. And what we're gonna do is select your ellipse tool, and we're gonna increase the weight, and we're gonna change it to a dotted line. So I'll zoom in so we can see what we're working with. Select my ellipse tool. We'll increase the weight a bit. Right now that's at 14, but we'll see what we're working with. I'll select my dotted line, and I think 14 actually looks good. So I'll select my move tool. I'm gonna just move this into place here. So I want a good enough spacing between the two. And to make sure that we have our text properly aligned, that it's even on both sides, I'm gonna hide this ellipse layer that we just created. And the way I do this is I'm gonna create a new layer. I'm gonna zoom out a bit. It looks fairly well, but we'll have a better understanding of how well it's aligned when we create a rectangular marquee. And I'm just gonna try to meet both ends here. That looks pretty good. It might just need to be nudged slightly, but that looks pretty good, and the top looks pretty good as well. So I'm just gonna fill this in on my new layer, and we're gonna pick a bright color. So let's see, any bright color will do. Alt and backspace, Control D to deselect. And now I'm gonna select my the top text that we have here. I'm gonna press Control T, and we're just gonna rotate this. Yeah, that looks good. And the bottom could be moved as well. Press enter. See if we're allowed to rotate this one as well. It might just move the path. Okay, there we go. That looks good there. I'll press enter. Now we could delete this rectangular shape here. So I'll just click on the layer and press backspace to delete it. I'll bring up my the ellipse that we created here of our dotted line, and I'll zoom in and make sure that we have good spacing between. Control T. I'll zoom out a bit, and we're just gonna align the spacing here. Okay, so that we can move these properly, I'm gonna just use my move tool and see if we can just move that into place there, as opposed to trying to rotate it or go into our settings for our stroke. We could just move this into place. Just make sure you have a good enough spacing between the two. And what we're gonna do with this ellipse shape, we're gonna right click and select, well, before we do that, let's change the color. So I'm gonna reselect my shape, and I'm gonna change the color to this color that we have here, just for now, because we're gonna end up adding a gradient overlay onto it, but I prefer it to match for the time being. So I'm gonna double click in here, and using my eyedropper tool, I'm gonna select from here, select our stroke, and we're gonna choose down here. There we go. So now I'm gonna right click on my ellipse tool, and we're gonna rasterize this layer here. After you rasterize it, I'm gonna select my polygon lasso tool, and I'm just gonna delete everything else aside from these dots that are connecting YouTube and Studio. So I'll just click, and I'm gonna make a selection of this, and we're gonna invert that selection. Control Shift I to invert, and backspace to delete. Control D to deselect. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna duplicate this layer, Control J, and then we're gonna go into Edit, Transform, and I wanna say it's Flip Vertical. Let's see what we got here. Okay, it's Flip Horizontal. So we wanna flip that horizontal. So I'm on my copy layer of our dotted line. I'm gonna go into Edit, Transform, Flip Horizontal. There we go. Now I'm gonna, while dragging it over, I'm gonna hold the Shift key so it stays in place. And there you go. And being that we added a gradient to this, to our outer circle here, I'm gonna right click on this layer, and we're gonna copy the layer style. And then we're gonna take that layer style, before we paste it into our dotted line, I'm gonna merge these two. So we have these two layers, and I'm gonna merge the two. So I'm gonna press, I'm gonna click on one, and then hold Shift key and click on the other. And then I'm gonna press Control E on my keyboard to merge them. Now I'm gonna right click and select Paste Layer Style. So that should give us the gradient that we have on our outer circle and apply it to the dotted lines that we created here. And the next thing I'm going to do is select my type tool. And now we're looking for a font called, make sure here, I know it's with an M, and I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this right, but I have Mustardo, and there's going to be a link in the description for download. So I'll select that. I'm going to type chunky here. And I'm actually going to only make the first letter cap chunky, and we'll change the text to white. I'll confirm that text. We're going to change that text to white. Then we're going to increase the size, Control T. By holding the Shift and Alt key, I'll drag that out and put that into place there. And I'm also going to rotate it slightly. The next thing I'm going to do is create a new text. Okay, when I clicked in here, it selected the text that we have here. So I'm just going to click on the outside of our design, and we're going to type milk. So now I'll be able to switch it back to, well, we need to look for Mostardo again. So I'll go down. Here we go. Mostardo. There we go. We got it on all caps. I'm going to backspace on here. There we go. Control T so I could increase the size. We'll scale that out. I'm just going to put that into place. I want it to connect between the C and the Y. So I'm going to make that a little bit bigger. We might have to scale down just a bit. Yeah, just a bit. I think that looks good there. Apply that. And the next thing I'm going to do is we're going to bring up our background layers. There's also going to be a link in the description for download as well. So this is the background that I have here for you guys. We created this this texture for you guys. It's a mixture of two backgrounds that we created, and we also added a color lookup. So initially, this was the background that we were using. We added a color lookup, and then we added this texture over each layer. So we set this up for you guys in a JPEG, so you're able to just download that JPEG and it's exactly the size of our document, so you just paste it into your document. And now we're going to add some depth to this badge that we created here. So to do that, I'm going to select this background layer. Maybe I'll create a new layer above. So I'm going to delete this white layer, and we're going to create a new layer above our background. And to add some depth to our image, I'm going to use the brush tool. I'm going to scale down, and I'm going to reset my colors. I want to use black here because I'm going to add a shadow to the bottom here, and I'm going to do that with my brush tool. So I'll just begin painting in with black right there. And I'm also going to do it on the top. We're going to add like a highlight to the top here. So I'm going to sample from, I'm going to also create a new layer because I don't want to do it on the same layer that I have my shadow, just in case I want to edit. So I'll create a new layer, and we're going to sample from this area here. So to sample, all you gotta do is press the Alt key while you have your brush tool selected, and you're able to choose like a sample color. As you can look at our foreground color here, you're able to kind of sample out, you know, a new color choice or a color option. And what we're gonna do here is just with this same size, well actually I'm gonna, from the center, I'm gonna increase my brush size to something like that there, and then click once. And what I'm gonna do here is add a mask to this layer here, and we're just gonna mask out what we don't want. I'm gonna zoom out a bit, and we're just gonna mask out, as you know, the stuff that we don't need. We'll just mask it out. And I'm using a lighter brush and letting it fade in, because your image might be a little different from mine. You might want some more highlight, you know, whatever works for you guys. And now that we have that there, you know, we got the little highlight, I'm going to select the top layer, create a new layer, and I'm going to come down a bit, and I'm going to click once, and we'll change this here to soft light. And the last step is for us to add a highlight right in here. So we added a little bit of color toning within the circle here, and now I want to add a highlight. So to do that, I'm going to duplicate this layer here. Control J is duplicating our inner circle layer. Control J. So now that we have a duplicated copy here, I'm gonna decrease my fill to 0, and I'm gonna select gradient overlay from our effects menu at the bottom of the layers icon. At the bottom of the layers panel, gradient overlay, and we're gonna change this to a single color to transparent. I'm gonna click on the stop, change that to white, and I'm gonna click on this stop and change it to white as well. I'll select OK. We're gonna change it to radial. We're gonna reverse. Well, untick reverse. And I'm just gonna move this up here. I'm gonna scale this out a bit too. I think that looks fairly good right there. And then what we'll do with this here is we're gonna lower the opacity so that you have an effect similar to what you see here. Okay guys, you have completed the Modern Badge tutorial. If you're new to our channel, please be sure to click on the subscribe button, and if you enjoyed this video, please like and share it. We're always looking for new content to upload, so if you guys have any ideas for tutorials that you'd like to see, please leave us a comment in the comment sections below. We'd greatly appreciate it. Until next time.